Welcome, Fumu.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and taking your time for me. I want to first acknowledge you for everything you've done, although I highly doubt this is necessary. I'm not sure if there's anyone in the Poke community who doesn't know who you are at this point.
There's still,
There probably are.
yeah, it's some of the newer folks who are just joining in for the community may not kind of know what I do, but I'm kind of keep it casual when I approach some people with conversations and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's being humble with it, I suppose.
Definitely. But even if you say you're trying to be humble about it, your record is simply put, I don't think anyone's record compares. You not only TO your local scene solo, you have TO'd a large amount of Pokken majors. You communicate with like every tournament organizer I know in the North America scene. You handle, I don't know, how many countless Pokken projects within the community at this point? I don't even know anymore. I actually tried writing down a list of all the things you've done, and at some point I just said to myself, I would spend too much time even iterating through it. So the point is, you've done a lot in the past year or so.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey though. My first experience with TOing and stuff like that, so it's all somewhat new. But it's like I said, it's been a fun. I don't know. I'm just glad I can kind of make myself useful around here.
You have proven to be more than just simply useful. Actually, I want to ask you right now because you brought up something I didn't expect. This is the first time you've TO'd? As in, Pokken is the first game you've TO'd?
Yeah, I did a minor amount of Smash just as part of my job, and a little bit of Call of Duty as far as my job as well. But the majority of the experience has definitely been Pokken, and from what I recall, my beginning experience was with Pokken.
So then, first and foremost, the Nebraska scene, your scene in particular. As far as I can tell, you're the only TO in the United States who mixes both free and paid entry. Could you explain the concept in case of any viewer who isn't familiar with this?
Yeah, so basically, I've stuck to a rotating schedule of free and paid weeklies, just as kind of a way to give my scene a way to have the weeks where they want to be more serious with their play, and those results being more important towards, say, like PR and stuff like that, or just the opportunity to actually play at a shot for the money. Where on the flip side, we had the free weeklies to, kind of focus more on practice, or if people just want to have a good time. Yesterday we actually had a free weekly, and most of us ended up using, secondaries or characters we hadn't even touched before. So we all had a really fun time just because it was a free weekly and we knew we could mess around. It's kind of a way to kind of help foster just the community, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of a better word for that, but it's just a nice way to kind of encourage players, even those who are trying out the game for the first time or rather new to the competitive side of it. The free entry weeklies are fantastic for that. All they have to worry about is paying the venue fee. I don't even see any of that. And then they can just play for, kicks, see how far they get. Like we had a player yesterday who, it was his first competitive bracket that he entered. He had only done Pokken stuff at kind of my unique events that I ran at a separate location. And the day before, we were doing our countering characters class with Machamp. And after we finished, we were just doing a bunch of friendlies. And this guy took, he beat in a set one of our best players, Skyraisin. So I was like, you really need to go to a Tuesday and try your hand at, our more competitive series events. And he actually did really well. He placed 5th. So yeah, it's just kind of like finding those opportunities to foster the community and give people those opportunities to just play with nothing on the line. Because that's how they're going to get comfortable with the game. That's how they're going to get comfortable with the community. And running those every, kind of that alternating schedule, I think has worked out very well for our scene.
That's very nice. I assume that what you're doing right now is you market the free side of your tournaments as sort of a gateway for people to actually compete and learn how the game actually plays. Much
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay.
Like, and honestly, it's completely up to the player if they want to take it to that competitive level. If they're one of those players who like never plans on getting serious with Pokken, but they enjoy playing it. Like we have a player who yeah, we haven't had him in bracket for a while, but Hot Dog Night. Hot Dog Night is a very good Smash player here in Nebraska, and he occasionally plays Pokken, played Libre a lot, and just has fun every time he's playing it. But he would never take it as a competitive, serious game because he puts a lot of focus on Smash, and that's perfectly fine. My main focus for brackets is just getting people playing. So we have some of those players that don't exactly take the game seriously, or they just they're not comfortable at the competitive level just yet, so that they just stick to those free entry weeklies. And even if they do try to make that hop into the paid entry weeklies, it's a very cheap cost. I've got our venue fee being only $5 is handy. And then, our entry fee being $3 means that, it's not a whole lot on the line to just give it a shot. I've gotten a lot more new players trying the game out with that $3 entry.
Then there are also the other regulars who participate in both free and paid because they want to be more competitive about the game in general. Mm-hmm. Do you notice in your spreadsheets or results if there are any such players who just buckle down when it comes to a pop bonus as opposed to goofing around on free brackets? There's
definitely some players who, like, regardless of the bracket, kind of just stick to what they know and, definitely go all in with that. I think we've encouraged them to kind of poke around a bit more as of late, mainly because everyone else is doing it and they kind of felt bad. But for our free bracket things where a lot of people just decided to use alts, at the time, Skyraisin didn't have an alt, so he would play Machamp, who was his main, and just end up doing really well against all these characters that we don't know as proficiently as our main. So, definitely previously I would say Skyraisin was kind of one of those people who definitely buckled down and focus no matter what. And for some of the matches that we had yesterday in our free bracket, I even did that. Someone picked... the opponent picked Chandelure, and it's like, well, all of my pockets really don't do well against Shandy, so I'm gonna go my main because that's who I know how to fight him best with. So I don't know, there are definitely some people in the community that definitely buckle down and focus on their main the majority of the time. Sometimes we can get them to poke around with some other stuff, but I think the majority of the community is definitely comfortable kind of poking around and having fun if people end up focusing on that. So it's kind of just a gentleman agreement to just kind of, I don't know, let loose.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. All right, you did allude to this earlier, but you did talk about various, I guess, classes, you call them, on how to deal with certain characters.
Yes, our countering characters class series has been running for, I think, a few months now. And basically the focus of it was... we were trying to find an alternate event on our Thursday nights because we were trying to run brackets. And at first, when we had started them, we had a lot of people who just focused on Pokemon TCG. We had a lot of them playing in the bracket, and they really enjoyed the game. However, they, I think, got a little discouraged when the players who knew the game, et cetera, participated in the bracket, and they'd always end up, not winning, getting knocked out early, et cetera, et cetera. So our numbers kind of dwindled. So we decided to switch to doing the countering characters classes to offer, a resource to our regulars, if you will, at a competitive level, trying to look at these things. And then for those who wanted to kind of dink around with the game and get more used to characters and et cetera, they had that option available, and we could help try to explain those. So there wasn't really a whole lot of success with having new players hop in on those, but I think, honestly, for our regulars, it's been incredibly handy for them to just have a night to where you focus on one matchup. And, all the friendlies that you do, you play against that one character so you can figure out what works, what doesn't. You break down, the frame data resources that we do have available for certain characters and see, what works against that move, what doesn't work against that move. Stuff like that. It's been a really good resource for those regular characters. And just being able to share out the notes gives that option to those players who are still learning the game. Once they understand numpad notation and kind of get a flow for how all of that reads, they'll be able to understand those notes and, kind of run with it if they're struggling in a certain matchup. So after we end up doing a class, I do share those notes out on our Facebook group page. And then once we have the full collection, I'll look to kind of releasing that out maybe somewhere on Pokken Arena or something like that. We're actually getting down to, I think, the final 4, so that should release here soon.
Okay, so what I do notice is that you have quite an active regular base. You have not only weekly events, which is somewhat rare for a group of your size. I think only HBA rivals this. Let me think about it. I feel like VSGC and HBA rivals this, but given that VSGC piggybacks off of a pretty large Smash community at the same time, just on a different date, I do think that the Nebraska scene is interestingly large given what I know about the state itself.
Yeah, it's honestly like, I don't know, I got pretty lucky with having just enough players to kind of sustain the weeklies for so long. We've been going since, the Tuesday after launch with weeklies, and it's been, like I said, I've been insanely lucky to have just a consistent number to hold a bracket just about every single week. We've had our slow weeks and stuff where just people couldn't make it out, but having these people dedicated to specifically Pokken and having enough to have a good bracket every single week, it's good. Like our numbers for our regulars are hovering around, I think, 8 to 10, depending on if you're looking at monthlies or weeklies, and it's great. Especially coming from Nebraska where you wouldn't expect it. Like we've got a pretty decent size Smash scene here. But as far as the FGC goes, they've definitely got larger numbers than us right now, but they don't have consistent weeklies in the sense where it's every single week. They've kind of swapped around where they've had Friday weeklies, and those kind of go okay. They don't bring out the best numbers, and then they swap to a bi-weekly Sunday, and those went okay. Like they've jumped around with numerous ideas, and I think what's been great about my regulars with Pokken is that the support from them to be able to host it every week just brings joy to me, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to run brackets and play games with people. So the fact that they come out and help support it's fantastic.
Absolutely. I do find quite a bit of respect for your scene in general from how often and frequent they can show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, they're amazing. I don't know. And what's great is we get to know each other obviously on a more, comfortable level, if you will. So we all end up being friends in the end. So
totally.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. And I'm excited to get some more people in the scene too, just so we can kind of grow the local community as well. Things are definitely starting to look up in that regard. A lot of bright things on the horizon, which is fun to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. So moving on beyond your local scene, let's talk about, I guess, the actual large ocean in terms of TOing. Let me be very clear and confident when I talk about it. So the last 2 events where I guess the TO would be DreamHack Austin and CEO, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this sounds about right.
All right. Then you had communicated with Jabali in order for this to even happen, right?
Yeah, so I reached out to Jabali for DreamHack Austin, basically on the recommendations of Slip and Bug and Combo. I was interested in doing it, but I didn't exactly know how to go about it. So after Combo and Slip and Bug kind of, encouraged me to kind of go do it, I just shot a message over to, I shot an email over to their Jabali and stuff and talked to him about it. And we didn't get everything that we were hoping for as far as the accommodations for me getting down there, but we certainly figured it out. Rudafuda ended up paying for my flight for that, which was insanely helpful. Being able to go down there and run that was certainly unexpected, but an awesome journey.
Wow. So what was it like working with him for both events then?
Great. Like, he obviously runs a very ship with the with his events. So when I got down there, it was kind of hitting the ground running, make sure everything runs. But in the end, he's a great guy. Like, he's very friendly, very personable. Still keeping it professional as well, which is awesome. And just interacting with him as far as online. Whenever I need to chat with him, I have no reservations about hitting him up or just asking a quick question and see if he can answer it or not. My hopes with DreamHack Austin kind of worked out, where I was hoping that if DreamHack Austin went well, I'd be able to, TO CEO. That was kind of a huge dream for me to be able to run an event like that. And originally I heard it was covered by TPCI, so I was like, well, all right, that's, I'm kind of out of luck there then. And then he just randomly contacted me, and he's like, hey, did you want a TO CEO? And I was like, yeah, I do. So he just kind of randomly reached out to me, and I think, with the success of DreamHack Austin and him knowing that I'm, able to do those brackets for him at those events and support the game for him, I think it's great. And we got to work a little bit for LCQ as well. He ended up being the TO for that when I helped with seeding and stuff, and he was able to run with it. And from what I can tell, he had a good time with it, and I was a trusted resource for that. So working with Jabali has been really good so far, and I really hope that it can continue here with future events.
Actually, do you have planned future events? Because from what I've heard, DreamHack Denver is confirmed.
Yeah, we're waiting for them to open the registration page to, or at least as of today, we're waiting for them to open up that registration page to officially make an announcement. But from what I hear, DreamHack Denver is a go. It'll be completely community ran. So that'll definitely be my next event with Jabali. That's the only one on my radar so far. I kind of had to cut back a little bit on my travels from the beginning of the year to the second half of the year, just because of finances and a new job. But I'm hoping to hit the ground running, or at least try to, go about running brackets, kind of still traveling around and whatnot. I still hope to do that. Just kind of need to change my game plan on how to approach those. So hopefully some more events with Jabali in the future. I think CEO next year will be looking good. It just depends on who will be running it. Honestly, if it ends up being TPCI needs their own staff to be able to run it and I get booted out, that's all right. I'm still probably going to play there. I'll be available as a resource if need be. So I'm here to help.
Speaking of game plan, I do want to talk about the fact that you also compete quite regularly, not only in your local scene, but also in majors as well. And even though Scats is pretty much my personal opinion, no offense, even though Scats is like the strongest of every TO I know in the United States,
I totally agree.
Yeah, you are still pretty far up there in spite of like all the work you have to do as a TO. Like, how do you...
I don't know. It's been kind of wishy-washy with it personally. Oh. Most of the events that I go to, I feel like I kind of don't do the greatest. I mean, at CEO, I only went 1-2. And, the opponents who knocked me out are obviously great players. Oreo being like a really solid Mewtwo player, and then Circuit, being really knowledgeable with Gardevoir. So it's... I don't know, like, probably the best rankings I've gotten have been NCR and DreamHack Austin. But beyond that, most of the other brackets that I've traveled out to, I haven't done the greatest. Yeah, but my focus has always been running on the bracket, so I take what I get as far as the games, and, NCR was a great experience. While I wasn't running the brackets there, I was able to focus as a player, and it, I don't know, it was a lot of fun in that sense, because I got to focus at an event on a completely different aspect of it. And I'm still very happy with where I got with that.
All right, that's good. I'm glad you have enjoyed NCR. The fact that you still managed to perform relatively well at DHA still impresses me overall.
Yeah, I got lucky with that, but I still got a Weavile weakness at the moment, so I gotta work on that one. I got knocked out by Weaviles.
Can't blame you. Texas has very strong Weaviles overall.
Yeah. Victus and Coach Steve were the ones who knocked me out, but it was they're both really solid players, so definitely huge respect to them.
Do you find this to be sustainable at all, or will you just will you try to keep your competitive play at more of a side effort on the back burner?
I don't know. Like, if I travel out to an event and there's an opportunity for me to play, I'm definitely going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to make some movements to try to be a little more competitively focused. Unfortunately, my time is kind of sucked up by a lot of other things to be able to practice at home, and I tend to get a little easily irritated with online lag. So I kind of struggle practicing at home, but having the locals kind of help with that. So, like, I don't know. I plan to still stay competitive for as long as I can with it. We'll just see how that goes. I definitely want to try to get more of that 50-50. I'm not going to be able to get to... Personally, I don't think I'm going to be able to play at a level as someone who's definitely solo main focused on a character, say, like, well, not solo main, but like Badminton. I'm never going to be able to play as well as him simply because my focuses are split. But being able to do as much as I can and with what I'm doing is definitely, I guess, all I'm aiming for.
All right. On the taco split focus, why don't you summarize to me, I don't know, just every project you're busy doing in the community at the moment, besides your TO work?
Oh my gosh. Well, most of them I just simply help get started, so I'm not really doing much on them.
Okay.
But some of them I definitely try to involve myself in. So like some of the ones that we're working on right now, we're working on our ranking our ranking results for the season 1.3, as we're calling it. Where basically we rank the results from Absolute Battle 7 all the way to Absolute Battle 8. I just realized that went... Okay. Wow. Okay. Anyway, we go from Absolute Battle 7 all the way, every single regional or major larger event, and we rank those out in a tournament system that's kind of based off of Panda Global's kind of tournament system. We kind of adapted it from that. Kind of help rank those events, see if they qualify as worthy to be included for the rankings, and then kind of summarize all that, and we figure out our top 50 come drop of DX. But like some of the other ones that we're working on, we've got a circuit in the works, we've got a wiki that we're trying to work on. The wiki, I haven't been super duper involved with, but some of the stuff that I mainly have been focusing on has really been just kind of the rankings. So our PPR and then our PAC that's coming along. We'll have more information out on that here soon. But other than that, I help people get started with their projects. And then my other focus for that is really trying to make sure that I'm keeping up with stuff with my scene, and then also data collection. Data collection on its own is a huge beast at end of quarter. So
okay, so across data collection, rankings, and PAC, roughly how many people are working on this?
There are a ton of hands involved with a lot of these projects. It's really hard to estimate because previously we had a channel that was just focused on like say our TOs and people in the community who really showed leadership, and I kind of reached out to those people to be like, yo, we gotta, kind of develop some stuff for DX, and things were kind of going slow. So we kind of opened up the quote unquote gates to the privacy of the server and allowed people in the community who were willing to help with those projects to do so. And it actually brought in some very good resources. Folks like Drakon Zeta, who's been very active with some of these projects. Folks like Brett, Spin has been, helpful with the projects that he's been involved with. There are those folks in the scene who are dedicated to help with those development projects to help get things ready for either DX launch or just to help improve things in the community. So there's There's certainly a lot of people within the what we have our project server. If I had to estimate, we have like a good 20 to 30 people working on projects in total. Most of those folks working in multiple projects. So having that assistance to help with some of those things that maybe I didn't think of or I don't have time to dedicate to, having someone to help run that ship is very handy.
Would you say there are enough captains running all these ships?
From what I can tell, I think so. Usually if we open up a project focus, it's because someone presented an idea and I make them the project leader for that. They pitch their idea. They're like, here's what I want to do. Here's what I need. And then, we make sure to notify everyone that say, hey, here's a new project. Help if you can. They read through it and they decide if they can help. Like we did just one of those today for Burnside. Burnside had a new idea that he's been kind of debating on getting rolling. And we just got that started today. And instantly he had a project channel up and running. He pitched his idea and people just flowed in with a bunch of recommendations for his project. So I think it's a working system, and I think we definitely have enough hands to roll with it. And it's not to say that every single project that gets presented will get a channel and get run with. Like they got to pitch it to basically see if it's feasible, and then people will kind of talk about it, and then if we deem it feasible, workable, et cetera, we definitely get that rolling as soon as we can. Especially with some of these ones that we're trying to get up and going before DX launch, because we want to have that ready to go for those new players entering our community.
I agree that it's a working system, and it's really nice to see a lot of volunteer work going into this sort of stuff. Clearly, I wouldn't bet that you would say the system is ideal. If there was something you feel like that should be changed, would you be willing to say publicly to me right now what you want to happen?
Probably the only thing that I can think of is just there are some folks who entered the channel with the intention to help and unfortunately just haven't volunteered to help with stuff. So really my only request is like if you go in there to help out, we expect you to help out. And there's just like a handful of peeps that haven't really been too active with it. Just making sure that we have progress on projects as well is another focus, I guess. Some of the projects can move slow on some days where we just don't have any updates. If anything, it's really just boiling down to like, if I wanted to ask for something to improve, it would definitely be activeness on the projects. But since this is all, unpaid work and, volunteer basis, we can only ask so much from folks. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the work that people do give for the projects because I know they're taking time out of their day to do that for the community. And of course, it's very appreciated.
How about the opposite problem where there are people who definitely would want to help out, but they aren't aware of the project place, despite the fact that, I don't know, I think we only plugged it once.
Yeah, we've only plugged it once. I've been thinking about doing another one. Actually, I was thinking about doing it yesterday, but I need to talk to the admins first. But I do kind of want to poke it again to see if anyone else can hop in and maybe help run some projects, maybe bring in a new idea or two. So yeah, I definitely want to advertise it occasionally. Probably not like frequently because then I worry that we get some people who end up hopping in being like, oh, well, this ain't for me. And then they just sit there. So, but yeah, definitely trying to advertise it more to get some more hands in has definitely been something I want to do probably within this week. So I'll talk to the admins this week to definitely see if we can't get another ping rolling, see if they have any issues with it.
Okay, here's a concern I have when this happens.
Okay.
Say there's someone that is interested in helping out, joins the Discord. Back when we first did this, there were roughly around, I'd say, half a dozen, maybe a few more projects. We have now reached the point where we are at and above a dozen full projects. Someone who walks in might feel a little overwhelmed, as in they don't know whether they can help pitch in a certain project, or which one of these projects is for them, what's this one about. They have to go through each channel to know what each project is about. And that might not even be obvious to them.
With that, it's kind of, I don't know, it's definitely a concern to have folks kind of hop in the channel and be like, I'm ready to help, but how? Trying to help with that as much as we can, I guess, is probably the only thing that I can think of. And previous projects tried to focus on, the channel descriptions having what is this channel about or who are the project leaders, head to the pin posts to see the latest updates within this project or whatever. So I think expanding some of the access for folks to pin things has been very helpful, especially like project leaders being able to pin their important posts. Very helpful there.
That's a feature I definitely wanted, but I'm glad it was implemented.
Yeah, no, that was a very good suggestion I hadn't thought of. So it's been very handy. I don't know, perhaps probably one of the things we could implement is kind of similar to other Discords where they have a welcome channel. Just kind of a constantly updated welcome channel with the projects that are in place, and just make sure that a summary of each project is listed in those channel or in that channel. That'd probably be the only thing I can think of that might be able to help with that.
It would help drastically for new users.
Yeah.
For new people who come in, that would help a lot.
Yeah, so we could probably definitely implement that and get that rolling. So I just need to double check through all of our project channels and make sure I've got an explanation on each one.
Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit in time to what was, I guess, what you were known for. Data collection. Explain your process behind this.
So the data collection process, I think it started because I guess I just like numbers for tournament results. You know, I got a lot of my TO experience from, like I mentioned before, Pokken, but a lot of that was asking a lot of questions to the existing TOs in my area for Smash and FGC scene. One of those FGC TOs was actually a co-TO with me for a while before he lost interest in the game. So he was an incredible resource for it. When the game came out, we were near end of quarter one, and I was familiar with the Smash scene having PRs every quarter. So it was like, okay, we've got 3 weeks worth of tournaments. Let's get a PR. And everyone's like, this is an awful idea. So it kind of allowed me to do is over the course of quarter two, obviously have more results to kind of go off of. But I wanted a way to determine PR where it eliminated as much opinion on the PR as possible by having statistical data and evidence to people's results in the quarter to determine the order as best as possible. And that's kind of how I developed my data collection worksheets and, started doing that for Nebraska. So kind of working those up from scratch has been certainly, a lot of changes I've had to implement from quarter to quarter based on new ideas that have been presented. Even this quarter, we're going to have to do another implement change for it to expand on the categories. But I think ultimately it's been a great tool, even if it's not used for, say, a PR. When I offer it up to the various scenes for their stuff, they ultimately decide what they do with it. If they use it for PR, great. If they don't and they just want to share out the stats, that's fine too. At least from my experience, players have enjoyed looking at stats. Some of them don't care. Some of them really don't care to look at the stats, and they'd rather not look at them. Because they improve so much within a quarter that they go back and look at how they did at the start of the quarter compared to now, and they're like, oh, that's awful. I don't want to know that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to be reminded of it. And that's perfectly fine. I'm offering it to those who are interested in the data. They like seeing those numbers. They like seeing how they did. It's definitely kind of a great way to see progress from quarter to quarter. As far as just results and game count sets and stuff. So it's like I said, I'm a numbers guy, so I enjoy doing it, and I think it's been very handy for the various scenes, especially like those who just recently implemented PRs. It was very handy for them to kind of get those up and running.
I did peg you for a person who likes to have sort of analytical data. I also assume you like productivity a lot, right?
Yeah.
Along with being analytical. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a personal question, but I want to ask you, do you do time tracking in your day-to-day life?
No. I feel like I would, I don't know, it'd be scary to see some of the numbers and how much time I dedicate to Pokken projects, to be honest. I don't know, like usually my day-to-day schedule is obviously I go to work. I try to help manage things as I can at work while also getting work done. Then I come home and, if I'm in the mood to play games, I'm going to really play games, but also try to help manage projects here and there. So I end up staying up in the mornings till 2 o'clock working on stuff, and then just head to bed and start it all over again. A little scary to see how much time I put in.
Okay, I understand why you'd hesitate. I'm just outright fearful of doing anything of the sort.
I wouldn't say it's going to be scary or anything. It's just more so I know the amount of time that I put on Pokken projects is going to be super high. I know what's coming. Time tracking, I think, would just be a little interesting. And I don't know. I try to help schedule myself with at least to-do lists day to day, but that's probably the most organization that I do. And even then, I sometimes ain't the best keeping up to that day to day. I just try to keep it all in my head. And it's not always the greatest way to do it, but it's kind of worked so far.
Have you ever considered trying to delegate away some of the time you spend on the Pokken projects? Not so much the things that you really want to do, because obviously you're going to keep doing them because you just want to.
Mhm.
But are there certain tasks that you might find outright tedious that you think a certain volunteer within the community might be willing to pick up?
Actually, yeah, I actually did that today. I'm trying to do better about not putting so many things on my plate to get overwhelmed, because then I get stressed out, of course. So I actually just asked today for our ranking system, because we recently found out that skill keepers kind of being a butt, and we have to recreate a bunch of brackets in challenge in order to automatically upload it and make this process easier. Basically, I asked today if anyone's available to help just key and remake some of those brackets. And I got one volunteer, Shadowcat, was willing and able to help out. I am trying to make some efforts to make sure that I'm not putting too many things on my plate, because then I end up getting stressed out when deadlines come up and I don't have enough time to finish all these things. And I've had that happen before, where I've missed deadlines that I put for myself on some of these Pokken projects, and I just felt awful. While I still want to be a leader in that sense, I don't want to be so much of a boss where I just delegate everything and I end up just sitting on my butt doing nothing. I want to make sure I'm still involved, because then I feel useful and I'm doing something around here. That's my, one of my ultimate goals, is just making sure I feel useful. Delegating, yes, I am trying to do that a bit more. But I am trying to make sure that if I can run with something, I'm going to dedicate time to do that and make sure that I do that. Going back to the PPR rankings where we have to deal with Skill Keeper, I was like, we're not getting anywhere talking about this. Any help that I can get where, I'm at work and someone's maybe available during that time to key something real quick, that makes it easier for me later. It just helps. And especially some of these other projects that I'm not so involved in, definitely saying okay, well, you presented it. I unfortunately am not going to have enough time to really dedicate much to it. So if I can have you run as project leader, that'd be fantastic. Especially with our Q&A, where they did the Reddit Ask Me Anything, basically. Having Majora kind of help organize a lot of that was very helpful. And initially he was kind of very hesitant to be called the project leader on that, but I really delegated him to kind of run with that, because he put the most focus on making sure that was going to be a success. And I think he did a great job with it.
All right, that's a respectable position to have. So moving forward, a lot of the projects we are trying to get before Pokken DX comes out on the Switch, once that does resolve itself and the DX hype, I guess the DX hype train just kicks off and just goes on its merry way, is there anything in that time frame that you're looking forward to doing with the community? Or is it just run with it, we'll see what happens, and then we'll decide what to do when the time comes?
A lot of it, we're trying to make preemptive measures to, definitely try to run with that hype train as best as possible. So I think we're definitely trying to do a lot of things that help with the future events, but I think the majority, honestly, is going to be adapting to what happens when it drops, and see who we get and what we run with and what we run into, and et cetera, et cetera. I think that's kind of our best approach at it right now, especially with a lot of the information for DX that we don't have yet and that we won't figure out until launch. How our tournament's going to best work. Is split screen going to be competitively viable? A lot of those questions we're going to have to figure out on the fly when DX drops. Activeness in the leadership is definitely going to pick up, I think. A lot of debates about things within the community, workings within that, projects in its own. A lot of it's going to be on the fly, but we're definitely trying to do as much prep work as possible. I think we've got a decent system as far as tournaments go, to try to help with that as we can.
That is actually all on my list. You burned through this way faster than I expected. So, actually, no. One more thing. Do you want to throw out any shoutouts to anything or anyone?
Oh gosh.
Putting you on the spot. Don't worry.
There's a lot of people to shout out to. There's so many helpful people in this community. So I don't know. Shout outs to the community.
We have time. We have plenty of time.
There's so many great people. Yeah, I don't know. there are definitely a lot of very helpful people within this community that make this process a heck of a ton easier. And even Zyflare, you yourself, you're one of those people. Like, you're very helpful with the kind of leadership of projects, and I definitely respect your opinion and your insight on things. And you've helped me in the past with like PR and seeding and stuff. And it's having those resources available as the head of Pokken Arena, being able to have those people that I can go to and rely on to be responsible and dependable. It's great. So like, shout outs to those people. And it's a lot of the community. There's a very large number of folks who are like that, willing to help out, whether it's just for one project that they're super duper interested in seeing, or multiple things that end up helping a lot in the community. Having the support from people to keep encouraging me to keep going is great. Like I said, I really just want to feel useful around here. So it's having that support behind it and know that I'm at least doing some good around here is fantastic. So I appreciate everybody in the Pokken community. And also I want to give shout outs to my wife, because she's been very helpful. Despite knowing I'm busy all the freaking time, she helps out where she can. We'll have to make sure that gets in the recording, though, so she doesn't beat me up.
Oh, yeah. No, I won't do it. Don't worry. Nothing happened. It's fine.
No, honestly, my wife has been very supportive with the Pokken stuff, despite it taking up a lot of my time, which can get frustrating for her and for me at times. She supports me by going out to some of the events. Like, she's traveled to CEO and gosh, what was some of the other ones?
On around?
Oh yeah, Final Round. She also went with me too. Having her there as a just even as a helper or as moral support for me is it's great. So my wife is fantastic.
You heard it from him, guys. Shoutouts to you, Pokken community. Shoutouts to Fuma. All right, thank you for your time, Fumu. Thank you very much.
No problem. All right, have a good night, man.
Have a good night.